The original start of this video was a 5-minute monologue that, looking back on it after finishing editing the video, felt like a waste of time. So for your sake and mine, I've opted to trim that out and just fast forward through the original edited video to the important bits. So there we go. A year ago today, our first project was published. The original draft of Splendor and Misery. It had its issues, some more serious than others. In the following 12 months, changes were made, including the welcoming and departure of members of the team. Fights were had. We all found hills to die on. The usual ebb and flow of a shared creative endeavor played out. Now, 365 days later, we stand at yet another crossroads. In this time, we've watched as our peers have soared in meteoric fashion, whereas we've continued to slow crawl. Of course, a rising tide lifts all ships, but it seems our anchor is a tad bit too heavy. We haven't found our audience as quickly as we imagined we would. That's left us all a bit glum. Our projects require a great deal of effort. Writing, revision, editing, art production, background modeling and rendering, coding, all of it takes time, energy, and probably most important, money. And frankly, we're out of money. Working between 40 and 80 hours a week on something that grants us little to no returns is unsustainable, as one can imagine. The hope was to burn on empty for a while until things like our Patreon picked up, and while the trend is positive, we've been out of fuel for a considerable amount of time. Too long, really. One can only coast for so long before the engine goes cold and the momentum dies. Our untenable financial state means that our work on our projects has slowed considerably, especially when compared to the frantic rate of production we saw at the start of 2024. Reality has intruded on our escapist fantasy. This, of course, wouldn't be a problem, but it's unfair to those currently backing us. A slow pace means support tends to wane, only furthering the downward spiral. It also feels terrible to not present our supporters with the content at the rate they no doubt expect us to. The solution here is an influx of support, but we can't manifest that out of the ether, so it's a bit of a catch-22. That's probably the most important point to hit on again and again. Your support is almost entirely what will determine the fate of our project. Our ability to create at a reasonable speed is in your hands. With that in mind, I believe a bit more openness is necessary. You should know exactly what we're working on and what your support would go toward. We currently have 5 projects in active development. The first 2 you already know. First, Splendor and Misery. Our flagship project, S&M, will continue development through the year, with us aiming to have it be completed in its entirety by the autumn. There are currently 6 chapters planned, with 2 already complete and available in our last update, as well as the start of Chapter 3. Once Chapter 3 is complete, S&M will be at 50% completion. Second, The Mirror Eater. TME, our interim project that we published while restarting S&M, continues its development behind the scenes. Its next update, just recently delayed, will contain the rest of the game in its entirety. It will be shipped in a completed state, barring any additional edits or bug fixes necessary afterward. Now on to the up-and-coming projects for 2025. Each will be released in their entirety as self-contained projects. No more waiting for updates. First up, Parapacum. We'll venture beyond the Occident, setting our sights on the sleeping star of the Orient, the Astorian Republic. It was said to have been the one redeeming quality of the New World. The year's 99, and all outbound voyages from Astoria's international aerodrome have been unexpectedly cancelled. Now, stuck in a foreign metropolis on an impromptu layover, and with seemingly every last hotel booked for the night, you instead take to the streets, joined by a stranger. Luckily for the two of you, Astoria never truly sleeps. Next up, Imiragashi. Imiragashi has been in development since before S&M's development even began, and it'll place you and a small crew aboard the intermundane vessel Constanzo, a Laborian scrapper, high above the swirling clouds and storms of Jupiter. Together, You will witness the impossible as the Constanzo receives a distress call from the Amiragashi, a legendary ship whose disappearance was said to have brought about the war in heaven all those centuries ago. It shouldn't be here. It can't be here. And yet it is, right before your eyes. Lastly, solstice weavers. Returning back to familiar soil, we'll move to the northwestern shores of what will eventually become Occidentia. Solstice weavers takes us more than 150 years into the past, back to the era of Solemn Yoti and the New World's recovery from the war in heaven. You'll join a cast of Unionists who hope to unify the fraternal cities of Seku and Tekin. Together, you'll face the trials and tribulations that come with uniting a shattered world still licking its wounds. Beyond these projects, we really can't say. We're doubling down, for now, and investing what we can into getting our works out there. Hopefully, in retrospect, this will be where things began to pick up steam. Fingers crossed. If we're in the same position by 2026, then we'll have to seriously reconsider. We'll just have to see. The future seems as hazy as ever. For those of you wanting to support what we do, or to see behind the scenes and other exclusive content, you can support us for as little as $1.30 a month on Patreon. We also have content there for free members, so feel free to check it out. We also really can't overstate how important sharing what we do with others is in getting us out there. Word of mouth is incredibly powerful, especially for things as niche as our projects. With all that said, thank you, and a special thanks to our patrons for sticking by us. It's been an absurdly long year already, and we're glad it's finally over. Here's the new year, and whatever it may bring, for better and for worse. Till next time.